Hello and welcome along to the VCO Studio show with myself, Ben Constanduros. We are here tonight, as always, to blend the real and the virtual world of sim racing and real world motorsport. And tonight is a man who is doing just that. In fact, on Instagram, he describes himself as a hybrid racer, part of the BS competition squad. It is Laurin Heinrich. Laurin, how are you? And welcome along to the show.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for letting me be here. I'm fine. Great to be here.
Firstly, let's go straight into it. Hybrid racer. That's a really cool way of describing yourself.
Yeah, true. The name hybrid racer came up this year, and I think it's a pretty nice word to describe what I'm doing, because I'm a professional sim racer in the virtual world, but I'm also working my way up in the real motorsport world to become a professional racing driver there.
And have these always been parallels then? Because you're 19 years old now, presumably started karting pretty young, but you still also had the ability to do sim racing at a high level when you were young as well, because you are so young. So did they kind of start together?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I cannot even say if I started first sim racing or first karting, because it was like at the same time. I just got interest in motorsports. Then I saw, oh, you can do racing at the computer. And then my dad took me to the karting track. So it was all around the same time. And yeah, everything worked fine until now.
So talking about your first steps in sim racing then, what was your kind of first memory of understanding that you could go racing at such a high level online against other people?
That's hard to say. Like, I raced these old games like GTR 2, Race 07. But back then there was no professional scene, you know. I was just driving around, and then I came to Assetto Corsa actually, and I was quite good in a professional league there, but still nothing with earning money and so on, or professional teams. Yeah, and then I came to iRacing, just did some driving, did these official races, and with the time you got some emails or private messages by teams who want you to drive with them. And yeah, that's how the ball got rolling. Then I joined a pure racing team actually. And after that, I joined Core Motorsports, which became Williams Esports. And now we're in BS competition.
And what changes when you join an organization such as PRT, which was, or is, or not is now, but very recently was one of the best teams in iRacing? What does being part of a team mean to you?
Yeah, it's great. I would say at first it's a bit intimidating when you don't know anyone in the team. You have to get to know everyone. Everyone's different, especially in this sim racing world where you can drive with someone who lives in Australia, for example. And yeah, it's great. Also great for being part in BS competition, because that's where I feel home. I've been part with these guys for around 2 to 3 years already, which is quite a lot when you consider that I'm only 19 years old. Yeah, it's awesome.
And it must be particularly special for you right now with BS because of their close relationship with BMW. That, I mean, you are now online mates, at least, with some real world professional drivers that you can suck information out of for your real world career as well.
Yeah, I mean, you have to imagine, as a small kid, I was on the grandstands with my dad watching DTM, Bruno Spengler, Philipp Eng, and now I won the 24 hours of Nürburgring together with Philipp Eng. It's just crazy. I'm every day in the TeamSpeak or Discord with Bruno Spengler making jokes. It's incredible. I never thought of that, to be honest.
And as much as you can glean information out of them for your real world career and your ambitions moving forward, they're taking a lot of information out of you as well, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can learn a lot from Philip, Nicky Katzberg, Bruno Spengler, everyone, for my real driving, how I should structure my career and everything. But we also teach them, or taught them, a lot in sim racing. Now they don't need to be taught anymore because they're so fast now. I mean, sometimes I can even learn from them in sim racing. It's great.
Okay. And in terms of kind of using sim racing for your real world, is there a sense of kind of getting extra testing in for your Carrera Cup experiences because the car is in iRacing, or do you feel like that doesn't help so much?
No, it helps a lot. It helps immensely. I did, like, before I did my first test in a race car, I drove the exact same combination in the simulator for hours. Okay. And it worked fine. It works perfectly. The best example is this year, for the first round in Career Cup Deutschland, we went to Le Mans. And obviously that's a track I've never been to. There's no testing opportunity, nothing. So you only have 2 times 45 minutes free practice, which isn't much to learn this long track. So I did every evening, I did like 2 to 3 hours together with my teammate on iRacing in a hosted session. And it helped so much. We were so fast, straight from the beginning on. I think I was in the first practice session, I was P3 or P4 out of 52 drivers. And as a rookie, this was amazing. And yeah, that's the perfect example where sim racing helped me a lot for the real world.
You've got a pretty cool rig there. I can see that with the wraparound screen. And I know that you've got a good relationship with Heuskebel, the pedal manufacturer. Do you think that that helps with that transition between real and virtual, being able to press the brake as you would press the brake in your Carrera Cup car?
Yeah, that's one of the most important things, actually, the pedals. Because before I went into a real racing car, you just know the brakes of a street car, and they are so light, obviously. And I went into a Formula 4 car, it was back then. It was so hard, and I didn't expect it. But then I also got the Heusinkfeld pedals, and it was exactly the same. I'm a big fan of them, to be honest. Obviously, there are also the hydraulic pedals, but maybe they are a bit complicated in maintenance. So I think they are the perfect compromise.
And so for you then, you'll obviously continue to be pushing your real world career. Is there a point where you believe sim racing will ultimately take over with so many experiences in 2020?
I don't think it will take over, to be honest, because yeah, I mean, there's still big differences between both worlds. But I think it's a very good addition, as we saw in this year, and maybe in sometimes also a replacement.
Let's talk about platforms then. We've spoken a lot about iRacing, and obviously you're a champion this year in the Nürburgring 24 Hours. But you have experience with all the different platforms and good experience. And what do you get out of all the different platforms that exist out there?
Yeah, as you say, there are many different platforms for different customers. I drove a lot of Assetto Corsa. This year I drove a lot of rFactor 2 actually for the Le Mans 24-hour virtual. And I like all 3 of them, to be honest. You have to know what are the good things about a sim, what are the bad things, and what you have to expect. The Le Mans 24-hour virtual on rFactor was a very good platform because you had all the cars, and you had the perfect day-night transition, the rain also, which was very exciting for me because it was new on a simulator. And on Assetto Corsa, you have a huge load of street cars, a huge load of race cars, and all these racetracks. And on iRacing, you have these competitive, multiplayer races. And, you know, every sim has its own part where it shines. And, yeah, you just have to know what to expect from it.
And do you have a preference?
Yeah, obviously it's iRacing. I don't know. I just like it the most. Also from the driving, for me, it feels most natural, but it comes also down to your wheel settings and so on, and what you think how a car should behave on a simulator.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think that therefore it was the right thing to do to put the 24-hour virtual on rFactor 2 with so many drivers with iRacing experience already? Was, in your opinion, as a driver, was that the right platform?
I mean, if you ask me, I would say it would have been better on iRacing. But yeah, I mean, on iRacing back then, we didn't have the new LMP2 car, for example. Yeah. The HPD was quite old. And yeah, I mean, rFactor 2, I know it has these technical issues, but also rain plays a big, or at least the weather plays a big factor in real racing and especially in endurance racing. So I could see the point why they opted for rFactor 2, but I would have preferred iRacing.
That rain situation that obviously never materialized in the real race, but there was plenty of test sessions and dummy races where there was wet conditions. How did that compare to what you experience in the real world. We've heard James Baldwin speak quite openly about how rain is simulated in the various platforms that do actually simulate it. Is it even harder to simulate rain than kind of dry conditions?
Yeah, it's super hard. I mean, maybe that's also why it isn't so good in the simulators. I don't know about Project Cars 2 or 3 because I think it also has rain, but I've never tried it. So I only know about R-Factor 2. To be honest, it was okay, but if you want to simulate it really well, then you should do it better, because in the end, the racing line on the rain was the same as in the dry, which is the complete opposite in real life.
Yeah.
And yeah, also the setup didn't make too much sense. But I have to say, this from a strategic point of view, it still was very nice, because you have to change for wet tires, you have to know when to change to wet tires, and that's in the end, that's the point for endurance race in strategy-wise.
Yeah, and I think that's a very key point, that endurance racing in the sim world has so many less variables than it does in the real world. You go for an endurance race around the Nürburgring 24 hours, and it isn't just the other cars around you that are the variables. There are so many other things: yellow flags, safety cars, the weather, obviously code 60s when you're racing at various different series. And the sim racing world misses all of those things because it's kind of predictable. Do you feel like there should be a little bit more unpredictability in the sim world?
Yeah, I miss these code 60 phases and safety cars because they just belong to endurance racing.
Yeah.
But if you put these factors like brake wear and diff wear and everything, like the wear of the car, into a simulator, then it will be quite difficult, because in the end, a simulator or sim racing is nice because everyone has the same car and the same conditions. But if you say, okay, you have to put new brake discs and new brake pads to be fast, then it's not the same anymore. You know, in real life, if you go into quali, everyone has new brakes. But if you go into a practice session, 50% of the cars have new brakes, and that's why they are maybe 0.2 faster. So that will be hard to put into a competitive simulator.
I do believe that ACC has that, the ability to wear through your brake pads and brake discs if you do things wrong with the cooling and stuff like that. But certainly it's starting to be simulated. And I think when we go back to the rain situation, you rely so much in your real world driving when you're racing in the rain with feel, what your body is feeling. And in the sim world, obviously you don't have that. So do you think actually a simulated wet race would even be harder in the sim than it would be in real world?
That could be, but I also have to say, in the simulator, you have a lot of more time to practice a track in wet conditions.
Yeah.
Because like when we were at Le Mans, every practice session and the qualifying was dry, and then we got thrown into the race in the wet. So every driver had to learn the track completely new in the wet. And obviously in sim racing, you can practice every condition online or offline.
So how much do you practice then? What's your kind of daily routine as a professional sim driver?
I would say I don't practice as much as others, but still, to be at this level, you have to practice a lot. I mean, you know, for one guy, a lot is 2 hours, and for the other guy, a lot is 10 hours. So it depends on the driver, but I wouldn't say I'm lazy, but I practice as much as I need to be at the level. But I don't want to spend time for practicing to get like 5,000 out of a lap time, because in the end, in the qualifying situation, you will have different conditions and you are excited, and that also plays a factor.
And how much is it practice versus jumping into servers and doing racing? Because obviously you guys on iRacing specifically can up your iRating by just jumping into open official races. How much do you do that? Or is it really just about focusing on the high profiles and testing for those?
To be honest, right now, it's only the testing for these important events. But I would like to do more of these official races, because in the end, that's why I started in iRacing, and that's also a lot of fun because you can just jump straight into it. Yeah. And if it goes well, then it's nice, you get an iRating, and if it doesn't, the world doesn't, it's not over, you know. And but I'm planning to do more of those now. Also in the winter time, I have more time, but in the summer, it's really hard to do these races, because in the end, you have to practice on Monday, and then on Tuesday the races already start. yeah, and that's pretty hard if you have a race weekend on the weekend. Then you don't have these big SOF races. You cannot do them. So in the winter, I think I will do more of them, yes.
So what are the big focuses right now? What are your kind of big events that you're testing for?
Yeah, right now I'm practicing for the BMW Sim Live, which is a pretty big event. Sadly, it's not held in Munich, but still it's a very great event. We qualified for that on the BMW 120 at Nürburgring. And then is the 1 week break on iRacing, the build week, and I will change to a triple screen again. So I'm also quite excited for that.
And the build week, does that kind of throw lots of things up in the air? You've got all these setups that are in your back pocket that suddenly might not work anymore?
I mean, I don't know the release notes now, but yeah, that happens quite often. You know, you have these great setups, then there's the build, and then you're maybe nowhere again. You don't know. So it's quite exciting always, yeah.
And of course, the other thing that you're kind of heavily involved with and really up in the points at the moment is the VCO Pro Sim series. That must be a pretty significant event to be part of.
Yeah, it's great. You know what I like most about it is that you don't know which track you drive until the race day. Because that's also what I like about real life, and what I hate, to be honest, I hate about sim racing. You can just do thousands of laps. Yeah. And everybody is getting faster if he does so much laps. So that's what I like about it. And also you have the fixed setup, the F3 car. And I'm driving with Graham Carroll, and we had we had 2 P4 finishes already, which is really nice, pretty consistent, but we are still wanting to go on the podium finally. So yeah, you have to cross your fingers for that.
And how much do you guys work together on kind of, I know everything's fixed, so you can't be working on setups, but do you guys get in a server together and do laps and work out little secrets and things?
Yeah, like 2 to 3 days before the race. Then we just go on servers, drive different tracks, and just practice a bit, because it never hurts. On this car, it comes down a lot to the driving, and it's really important to be very consistent, especially in the qualifying. With that many cars, the field is so tight, so you have to really nail that lap.
Hey, one other really cool thing, well, I think it's cool anyway, about the VCO Pro Sim series is the fun race. Because so often in iRacing, we watch the same cars competing in the high-level races, the GT3s mainly, and a few other bits and pieces. But rarely do we see some of these crazier cars that exist on iRacing in high-profile events being driven by amazing drivers like yourselves. So do you enjoy that? Did you enjoy that? We had, what was it, super late models around Road Atlanta, I think you had to contend with last time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. To be honest, when I first read that we drive these super late models, I was like, oh no, it cannot be true. But then I drove some laps, and yeah, it was fun. Like you have to maximize the mechanical grip. You have like no aero, and even the car is asymmetrical. So it's so weird to drive, but yeah, it was fun, like it should be, and it was great to be among all these real world pros competing for that fun race win.
And how often do you actually just do that yourself? How often do you just go on iRacing for fun?
Yeah, maybe once a year, because in our team we do like a Christmas party, not on Christmas, but a few days afterwards, and we just drive crazy combos, like 20-minute races, which is a huge fun. And it's also nice because you have no practice. You just jump in and do a race.
Ah, sounds good. I'll try and get myself an invite to that one. I'll be at the back of the field, but you know, I'm still a rookie on most things.
You don't know what we're driving, so sometimes it gets a bit crazy.
I do like
a lot of luck.
I like the off-road stuff, which probably you guys don't do so much of. So you know, maybe I'll have a little bit of an advantage.
I mean, the craziest thing we've done was a rallycross track with the M8. So
nice.
You always crash the car on the jump. It just goes straight and it crashes.
Well, it's been really great to chat with you, and it's been great following your progress both in the real and the virtual world in 2020, and so much more to come still with the various events that are happening. Good luck with the BMW thing and the VCO Pro Sim series, and thank you very much for joining us, Laurin.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
VCO Pro Sim series is next round on the 16th of December, just before Christmas, and every Monday you've got me to contend with, chatting to a sim racer or a real world racer, maybe even a sim racing boss. We've got plenty of those knocking around, and lots of interesting things coming up in iRacing and various other platforms as well. So thank you very much for joining us, and make sure you join us every week, Monday at 8 o'clock, usually. For now, bye-bye.